Hi, everybody. Eve Harrow on Rejuvenation for the Land of Israel Network. Today is the 27th. Actually, we just moved into the 28th day of Nisan, 5778. Still Thursday, April 12th, 2018. You're going to be listening to this on Sunday, but I have to say what today is because things are like every single day. Who knows what's going to bring? So I don't want to, broadcast and then why didn't she mention that just last night this and this happened? In any event, I am broadcasting not from the hills of Judea as usual, but from Los Angeles. As many of you know, I am here greatly honored to be part of the 70 for 70 program of the Religious Zionists of America. I haven't yet spoken. It's still Thursday. So I hope that Shabbat and the Sunday morning program goes well. By the time you're listening to this, I will already be flying back to Israel. But I'm very honored to be sitting here now with Rabbi David Stav, who is also one of the people who was here for this weekend, but he is also, in addition, at home, the rabbi of the city of Shoham, the chairman of Tzohar, we'll talk about that in a minute, and the co-chancellor of Or Torah, and also a few years ago ran for chief rabbi of Israel, and I hope that we get a chance to talk about that as well. So it is really my very great honor to introduce to all of you, my listeners, Rabbi David Stav. So thank you so much for joining me here.
Good evening to you and to all your listeners.
We're far from home, but it's an important thing to be doing. Tzohar, the organization that you co-founded in 1998, I believe. What is that? My listeners know that I am, out of tremendous love for Judaism and the state of Israel, not always so happy with the organized Judaism and the Rabbinate and some of the bureaucracy that we have in our state. And as a result, I became aware of Tzohar, and I'm a supporter of Tzohar. But I would like my listeners to also get an idea of this very, very important organization.
This organization was founded in 1995, right after the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, when we felt that the conflict between observant and non-observant in Israel could create a clash and to break the Israeli society to fractions and to destroy the third temple. And so we gathered a group of rabbis and we asked ourselves, what could we contribute in order to soften a bit the tension that existed at that time between observant and non-observant. And we don't have all the solutions, but we realized that one of the reasons of the conflict comes from the relationship between state and religion. The fact that the vast majority of Israeli society, which is secular, is coerced to have his weddings done through the rabbinate versus the American people that have freedom of choice to choose whether they want to get married civilly or religiously. Now, if you get married religiously and it's done in a proper way, okay, that's one thing. But if it's done in an arrogant way, if people feel that they're not treated in a proper way, if a lot of people have problems to get married halachically because they have to go through a very difficult track to prove that they're halachically Jewish, because of all these reasons, people were pushed away and looked for other solutions, such as flying to Cyprus. Now, for us to fly to Cyprus it's shorter than a flight from Los Angeles to San Francisco. It's much shorter, but yet it has a terrible meaning, because once somebody will get married in Cyprus, it will mean that we will have no proof for his kids, for his descendants, to prove that they are halachically Jewish, because the main evidence for us that somebody is Jewish is the ketubah that he brings from his parents that was officiated by an Orthodox rabbi. So that's actually what moved us and motivated us to try to resolve that problem. And we started as a small group of rabbis. Today we have more than 600 rabbis, more than 400 women that are volunteering to be bride counselors or to officiate weddings. And we perform every year more than 5,000 weddings a year, and we could perform more and more. It's only a question of resources.
So to put it in terms, I suppose, that Westerners would understand, there's no separation of church and state, as it were, synagogue and state in Israel. And from this comes the problem?
Yes. I dare to say, I'm not saying that I have a better solution for the relationship between state and religion. What I'm saying is that once we coerce the secular people to get married in our way, we have to do all efforts possible in order to ease that process. But instead of doing that, we looked at them as captive audience. We thought that they will always stay by us. And they grew up a new generation that says to itself, we owe nothing to these rabbis. We owe nothing to this religion, to this culture. And for us, it's easier to fly to Cyprus rather than to fly to Eilat. And we want to do that. And
so when I moved to Israel 30 years ago, and I remember getting used to the new reality, and even people who didn't keep all the mitzvot, you say secular, it's hard for me to use that word because what I see in Israel is really a tremendous continuum. People who are very connected to their Judaism, but not necessarily in overtly the symbolic ways that we're used to. People, depending on what kippah they wear on their head or don't wear or how they dress. It's much more complicated.
People with transparent kippah.
Yes, exactly. The people with the transparent kippah. But also and I think it's very healthy and very wonderful. I've grown to appreciate it tremendously. So one of the things when I moved to Israel 30 years ago, and I saw Jews of all different stripes, but it was pretty prevalent that even people who wouldn't have considered themselves Orthodox, when they got married, when they were buried, the major life cycle events, they did according to Orthodox law, even though that wasn't the synagogue they went to, if they even went to it all. And now, as Rav Stav has said, you see that's changing. I guess everybody in the world in general would like to do the things they would like to do, and they're exposed to different things. So in terms of Tzohar and I've been to weddings that have been officiated by Tzohar rabbis, which are definitely explain more the process of what's happening. It can be also a frightening process for someone who's not involved in Judaism to suddenly be asked to do all these things. But the weddings themselves are still Orthodox?
Well, I think that it's very important to emphasize that the chuppot themselves, the weddings themselves, are 100% halachically Orthodox done, no doubt about it. I could tell that even the procedure, we are very, very strict with following all the procedures that the chief rabbinate has demanded from us. So if that's the case, so why do they come to us, thousands of couples? I guess there are a few reasons. I think the first reason is that we are very friendly to them. We like them. We really see them as our brothers and sisters. And they feel it from the first moment when they arrive to the Tzohar Rabbinate. They are offered a cup of coffee and cookies. Somebody comes over to them after a few minutes and asks them if they are okay, if there is a problem. Usually they have no reason to wait even 1 minute because we plan the way the couples will go through the different steps of our office, and they will be out within 35, 40 minutes at the maximum. So actually, there is no reason to spend by us time. So that's another reason why they love to come to us, because they really feel that we respect their time. It will never happen that a couple will come and they will not see the rabbi. In many cases, in many occasions, we allow the couple to send emails, and accepting them instead of running out of time and asking the people to come back and forth to bring another paper, and we tell them, please use the fax, use the email, do whatever is more convenient for you. I mean, we don't insist on nothing bureaucratic. I think that's the first thing that is shocking the couple, that they see a bunch of officers that are fully determined to help them and not to bother them. That's number one. Number two, I think the main difference that they see is when they meet the representative of the religion, I mean, the rabbi and the bride counseling. And we insist that these conversations will be done in the rabbi's or in the bride counselor's home, because we want the couple to feel what home looks like, what a Jewish family looks like, the warmth, the courtesy, the responsibilities, to see the children. And it has a tremendous success because we get the feedbacks from the couples after they have been exposed to the family of the rabbi, to the family of the bride counselors, that they say to themselves, wow, that's something that was worthy to go through this process.
Mm-hmm. So in addition to weddings, what else does Tzohar do? I know that's the main thing because it's important that then the children also be recognized as the offspring of a halachic.
Today we focus, that's our flagship, the weddings, but we do much more. Today we have a different department named Shorashim, which means roots, in which we help primarily the Russians, but not only Russians, Americans, South Americans, to help to prove that they are Jewish, because most of them arrived to Israel or to Russia, and they were not holding all the pieces they should have held, and therefore we have to find out what's their sources. So we have a department of Shorashim. We have a department for the holidays. We run special programs for secular people on Purim, on Yom Kippur, on Shavuot, etc., etc. So that's another project. And recently we have launched a new project about kashrut, challenging a bit the chief rabbinate with these issues, but never mind. That's our job, to challenge them.
Okay, the kashrut issue is one in terms of giving a license to different restaurants that the food is kosher. And as with so many things, unfortunately, that I think turn people off tragically to Judaism, it becomes more about power and money than sometimes the actual halacha, and getting a kosher certificate is not always what it should be. And then a lot of people get turned off. I know people turned off to the religion, and it ends up pushing them away. You mentioned the Russians. The issue of conversion has also been a tremendously fraught issue.
Unfortunately, most of the Russians don't want to convert. They don't. I don't know if it's because of the behavior of the rabbinate, if it's because of other reasons, but the reality is that most of them don't want to convert. And therefore, what we try to do is to convince those who do not need to convert, but they grew up with these kids for years, and therefore we need the voice to come and to testify that these people are Jews. So that's a third project, Shorashim, holidays, and recently the kashrut that we supervised now hundreds of businesses with a lot of success.
So just to give my listeners a little bit of background, Israeli law is the reverse of the Nazi law of who is a Jew. The Nazis would say you were a Jew. The law of return, yes. So the Nazis, even if you had one Jewish grandparent, you were a Jew, and they sent you out to the camps and whatever it is that we know the Nazis did. And that's the law that was applied in Israel for who is entitled to Israeli citizenship. However, according to Jewish law, it's matrilineal. So if your father's line was Jewish, but your mother isn't, then you're not considered Jewish according to Israeli law. And in that falls, about 300,000 or so Russian Jews who came under the law of return, but aren't.
400,000 Jews or people, immigrants, have arrived to Israel under the law of return, and they do not fit to this definition, halachically speaking. They fit to the legal definition, but they do not speak to the halachic definition. And in the last 2 or 3 years, the numbers keep on growing. Today, out of the 22,000 people that come every year from Ukraine and from the Soviet Union, about, I don't know exactly to say what's the percentage, but we estimate that the percentage of those who are not halachically Jewish is about 40%.
Mm-hmm. And many Israelis, probably it's not so important to them to marry someone who's halachically Jewish.
Secular Israelis couldn't care less. Mm-hmm. Right. And when they come to get married and they are told that they have to prove that they're Jewish, most of them get so angry and they say, okay, if that's the case, I will fly to Cyprus.
Mm-hmm. And this problem is only going to get bigger as the years go on, and everybody's...
Every year, the percentage of those who arrive to Israel that are not halachically Jewish keeps on growing.
Okay, so let's unfortunately have to get into the political side of it. The chief rabbinate is a political appointee of the Israeli government. How does it work exactly with the rabbinate?
There is a formula, very complicated formula, to the body of electorates that chooses the chief rabbi. And it's controlled by politicians, not only the prime minister. Prime minister, the Minister of Religious Affairs, other politicians that have influence on the political system. It is a political nomination in the end of the day.
So you ran for chief rabbi, and no?
It's true.
Yeah. And what happened?
I didn't succeed. Very simple. Rabbi Lau Jr. had 14 votes more than I did, and that's why I won.
And Rabbi Lau Jr. is not a member of Tzohar, and he doesn't see things the way you do.
He doesn't see it in our way. He fights against Tzohar. He's not the first one to fight. The previous one also fought. He's now in jail, but he fought before he went into jail. He fought against us. And this current one fights against us as well.
So just so my listeners understand, my listeners, Jews and non-Jews, who try and make some sense out of some of the very complicated things that we have going on in Israel, everything that you do is halachically pure, meaning according to strict Jewish law. The only difference that you're putting in here is in having people feel that they're cared about, that they're not just following a set of rules and they...
100%. The big difference between us and the rabbinate is the friendly approach. It's not about anything that has to do with the essence, but the essence we all agree upon. It's a din of the way you are reaching out to people in this.
So what should be the problem here?
The problem is that nobody wants to lose power. And once people feel that the public is falling in love with Tzohar rabbis, it disturbs some Haredi politicians.
What do you see? Are you optimistic about the future of Tzohar? You said you now have 600 rabbis.
So I'm optimistic. Well, that's my job to be optimistic. But yes, I think that we have a lot of work to do. And I think that the cooperation is so big that I believe that even after we finish our term, there will become a new young leadership that will do its term. And they will know what's recommended and what's not. I will tell you that I'm optimistic about the future from the Tzohar point of view. I'm not optimistic from the tearing up the society to pieces as it's done recently by different politicians. But okay, that's a part of our challenge.
So for those of you who haven't seen Rav Stav, and because this is radio and not television, he wears a kippah shulga, what we call the knitted kippah, which is, sometimes you can tell almost how somebody votes in Israel by what they do or don't wear on their head. But it's affiliated with the Dati Leumi, what we'll call the national religious, right, and the people who also, let's say, would serve in the army, as opposed to the rabbis today who make up the chief rabbinate who do not. That's a major, major point, sticking point in Israel that causes a lot of resentment and a lot of upset. What do you say about that?
I couldn't blame people that want to see the rabbi that will stand and will bless the couple beneath the chuppah, that they want that this rabbi will go to the army. I guess they want a rabbi that share with them a lot of common values, and not a rabbi that share nothing with them. So I don't blame them for demanding these kind of demands.
Mm-hmm. So do you get help from some of the political parties or from other organizations in the national religious world?
We get a lot of help from the politicians. We get a lot of support from wealthy congregations all over the world. But I must say that most of our resources are based on Israel and on Israeli people that donate. So not on American or elsewhere separate.
So say someone like myself or some of my listeners who are listening and saying, Tzohar sounds like a wonderful organization. And aside from giving money, which is something you can't function without, what else could people do in order to affect change in Israeli society? I, as an Israeli, someone who's lived there for close to 30 years. It's incredibly frustrating, as my listeners know, because I keep having people on like Rabbi Natan Lopez Cordoza and others who speak about this. The frustration that, first of all, our tax money is going to pay a chief rabbinate that doesn't reflect what I suppose anybody could say that about anything that has to do with politicians. Your money doesn't always go to people that reflect your views. But this is such a huge issue, the character of the state, of the one Jewish state in the world, and the challenges that we have in the way we express our Judaism. What can people do? Is there a letter they could write to someone if they work with people who are secular? Talk to them about
their contribution could be in two levels. Number one is the public support. And public support is not only by giving money. Public support is by sending letters. Public support is to Chief Rabbinate, to Minister of Religious Affairs, to our rabbis, to strengthen them. Many times our rabbis could feel that since we are not controlling the Chief Rabbinate, so therefore maybe the status is not promised or could not be guaranteed. But when they see that a lot of people in America support us, it makes them feel better. It makes them feel stronger, and their strength is our victory.
So, since we're sitting in America, since we're right now in Los Angeles, the majority of North American Jewry does not affiliate itself with the Orthodox stream, with either conservative or even reform. What would you say to them, to people who, let's say, would like to move to Israel from here, but also feel like it's controlled by not just the Orthodox, but by the ultra-Orthodox? Where is there flexibility here? There are some people who will call you a liberal when it comes to Israeli Orthodoxy. I know that that's not, I don't believe that that's how you think of yourself. So what would you say to Jews from outside of Israel who are not seeing their needs reflected in the Israeli system?
First of all, I keep on saying to them, it's not what would I say, it's what I'm saying to them. I just met this afternoon a conservative leader. I keep on saying to them, the future and your future as a movement, as a part of a nation, is only in Israel. Because of very, very pragmatic reasons, not because of spiritual reasons. Just because that's the only place where Israel is the only place where people, although they will not be recognized, but could remain using these names, could remain using other names that are important for them. For the people that live in Israel, I keep on telling them that the only way, suppose you want to preserve, you want to guarantee the existence of reform and conservative movement, the only place you can do it is in Israel, because in America, you can never know what will happen with assimilation, what will happen afterwards. But in Israel, when you have this conservative guy, you can almost be sure 90% that he will get married to a Jewish girl, so he will build another conservative home. I mean, nobody will disturb a conservative or reform from worshiping.
So ironically, the only place that people really have the luxury of not being Orthodox but raising Jewish children would be in Israel.
That's true. That's true. It's ironic. Yeah. And I keep on saying that to people. The future of the Jewish people is in Israel. That's not. I'm not saying this from an ideological point of view, although I'm ideologically feel that. But I really believe that Israel is the place for the Jewish people, and I really believe that other places they will not develop as much as they develop.
So you encourage conservative and reform Jews to move to Israel, even knowing that if their numbers get bigger in Israel, they're going to demand a bigger piece of the budget. They're going to want different rights, let's say at the Kotel, women of the wall, etc., etc.
Alevai. I keep on telling them. By the way, I'm not the only one. Everybody tells them, be here, live here, and then you'll be able to see how solutions that you suggest could be very useful.
Yeah, I say that too, and I'm not a rabbi, because I also believe that the Jews belong in the land of Israel. Do you meet with non-Jewish leaders as well, with Christian leaders? And what do you say to them about Israel?
I keep on saying what's written in the Gemara, that Israel is a miraculous phenomenon, not only for Jews. It's a miraculous phenomenon for Christians and Muslims as well. And they should be proud of our existence and of our establishing our state, not less than in other. Because I really believe that that's where the God of history is leading his Jews. And if somebody wants not to be a forgotten part in Jewish history, but to play a real turn in Israeli history, I think, and that's eventually the Jewish history, the best way to do that is through the names of the parents or whatever, to try to remember that.
So I think Israel is a sign of God in the world, which is good news for anybody who believes in God, no matter what his religion is. And I think the world is starting to divide itself a little bit between the God people and the not God people to some degree. Do you meet with Muslim leaders as well?
Of course. Yeah. As a matter of fact, one of these leaders, I don't know if you remember, if your listeners remember, there were riots when the people of Amona, of the settlement of Amona, were evacuated. And there was a terrible behavior by those who rode the horses. They hit students without any reason, etc. So in that time of this using violence by the police, I was interviewed in one of the radios, and I said to the broadcaster, you know what, why do you ask me? Go and ask the Arab leaders about the behavior of the police. So he was doing that. He called this, my friend, and he said, yes, I'm really against the violence of police. I'm in favor of evacuating the settlers, but I'm against violence. It has to be done in a proper way, not through violence. So that was one of the contributions that our interfaith meetings has contributed.
So just to get back to Tzohar, in addition to Jews needing to get married, let's say, under Jewish law, the Muslims and the Druze and every other religion in Israel also have their own religious courts.
And I'm sure that we have a lot to learn from them, and they could learn from us.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. Because so often when we talk about Israel, it's the religious divide among the different people there. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much mutual respect and coexistence happens every single day in Israel, and especially among, as they say, people of the cloth, whatever the cloth happens to be. Any last words before I let you go?
Yeah, I want to say that today we live in a wonderful country, and I think I'm not here as a shaliach sochnut. I'm not as a emissary of the Jewish agency, but I really want to share with your listeners that Israel became a lovely country. It's a beautiful country. A lot of Jews live there, which makes it even more beautiful. And despite all debates and all disputes, yet we have a very warm community and a very warm country. And I think it should be recommended to each one that feels connected to the Jewish people to make this kind of a visit, at least once in a while.
It's tempting for me to want to not speak in Beth Jacob this Shabbat and instead come and hear you in the synagogue that you're speaking in. David Stav, so thank you so very much for giving us of your time, and I'm sure that Shabbat will just go beautifully. Okay, my listeners, I will be right back. Hi, everybody. Shavua Tov. These are the last few minutes to wrap up today's show. I am still in Los Angeles. It is Saturday night, Motzei Shabbat, April 14th, just for another few minutes. It's also working our way into Rosh Chodesh, into the new month of Iyar. Technically Rosh Chodesh. This month what we're doing is celebrating a 2-day new month festival, the last day of Nisan, the first day of Iyar. And so we are saying our prayers for the new month, the special prayers that we say in the joy of a new month and new beginnings. And so I want to wish you all a Chodesh Tov. I had a terrific experience here in Beverly Hills over Shabbat at Beth Jacob Congregation. Very moving, even especially for me, talk this morning at synagogue, about 20 minutes towards the end of the prayers of the davening, from the same podium that exactly 40 years ago I graduated high school. So that was really very, very moving for me, and spoke from the heart, as I almost always do, about the special week that's coming up, Israel's 70th birthday, and just try to inspire the audience about the greatness of the times that we live in and the love that Hashem is clearly showing for us and the miracles that he provides for us every single day. And not just that, the opportunities that he provides the Jewish people to be an Or LaGoyim, to be a light into the nations, that he brought us home in a concentrated way, in a sovereign way, for the first time in a long time, always Jews in the land, but now recognized as a state by the world, and how special that is, and enabling us to really to give, to teach, to make the world a better place, which is all that we really want to do, and have unfortunately not had the opportunity and the safety to do it for a long time. And so there was that, and then spoke for a few minutes in the afternoon, about 45 minutes in the afternoon, more political talk about options for a two-state solution, trying to get people to understand, and they got it, how that's dead in the water, and we have to move around and think of other things so that we will come to some kind of accommodations with our neighbors while ensuring our safety and also our rights to the land. And tomorrow morning, there's a panel, a breakfast panel, right after the special celebratory prayers for Rosh Chodesh. I will be there with 4 rabbis that have also been in town for this weekend, including Reuven Tarragon and Rabbi David Stav. He was one last week's interview, the other one this week's interview, as you know. A very interesting man, Rabbi Stav. I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to interview him about Tzohar and the really important things that they're doing in Israel. So all in all, it's been an exhausting but interesting week for me, and I hope that I was able to affect other people, bring the love of Israel, the knowledge of Israel out, and God willing, I will have the strength to keep doing that for a long time. Much needs to be done, and I'm just so grateful to be in a position to be able to do it. So I will be winging my way home back to the land tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday, because there's just no time to rest. I land Monday night, Tuesday, guiding a bus for One Israel Fund to the Hebron area, to Chocolate, to Holy Cacao, then to Ma'arat HaMachpelah, to the Tomb of the Patriarchs, parts of Hebron, giving goodies to the soldiers through the Pinach Hama in Hebron, and coming up to Kiryat Arba, also to Kiryat Arba, actually, to see some of the security that One Israel Fund has provided for the town, and then coming up to end the day Kfar Etzion with very moving film about what happened there in 1948. And so as I say this, I know that there are still a few places left on the bus, not many, but a few. So if you're listening to this and you are in Israel and looking for something meaningful to do on Tuesday, I'd love to see you. So go to the One Israel Fund site, oneisraelfund.org, and sign up for the trip, and let me know that you heard it here. So take care, everybody. As I said, Chodesh Tov. I'm sending this off to Ben and to Tabitha, with whom I can't really make a move. And thanks for listening. As always, Eve Harrow, Rejuvenation. It's the Land of Israel Network. It's a new week. It's a new month. It's Israel's 70th birthday this week. L'Tiferet Medinat Yisrael. And the best really is yet to come. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye for now.
Josh Haston here, host of Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Radio Network at thelandofisrael.com. Make sure you check out my show every Monday, bringing you the news unfiltered and uncensored, information that you are not getting anywhere else, especially not in the mainstream media.
Israel Uncensored with Josh Haston on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.